I'm curious, when did you, as a child-free by choice woman, start to realise that you didn't want children?
Hey, lovely viewer. Welcome back to Comfort for Life. Excited to have you, amazing viewer. I'm glad that you stopped by. I just want to let you know that your contribution on this particular video will be of great impact. We'll be looking at child-free women and what they have to say. I was surprised to realize that some women, as early as 10 years, they had already made up their mind of not wanting kids. So I just want us to shift our focus on them and focus on those who are having kids and those who are raising kids right now. How are we approaching them? Because if a child of 10 years can decide not to really not have kids later in life, it has an effect on how parents approach parenting and how do they react. Are they really happy? Do they show them that they are happy to have them? I remember when I was in high school, there was a girl who was told, like the father told her in her face that we were not planning to have you. We just wanted to have one kid and you came mistakenly. Just imagine a child growing up with knowing that she came in but she was undesirable. So, and all the time that she was requesting stuff from her parents, she was always pushed away. You are an added burden. So I want us to approach it that way. You who is having kids, you who are having kids right now, women with kids right now, I know it's irritating to hear somebody saying that they don't want kids when you are having kids. It can be irritating for some, but some have even come out there on media, for heaven's sake, to say that I have kids, but I don't want it. The greatest mistake I've ever made. I'll call you to listen to the few stitches that I put together and let's interact. What do you think about this? Don't hesitate to leave your thoughts in the comment section.
This is a genuine question from someone who has children. Why are mothers so triggered by people that don't want kids? I really need an answer. So
I'm curious, when did you, as a child-free by choice woman, start to
My family owned a restaurant, and I started working in that restaurant when I was 14 years old. And starting at that age, I observed moms with their kids out at lunch and dinner. And what I noticed was these moms didn't look happy and they weren't having a good time. What was happening was they looked exhausted and they seemed frustrated and tired. And I noticed that they would be doing the work of parenting while their husbands, the dads of these kids, sat there and enjoyed their meals and drank their beers and didn't do much, didn't really lift a finger, didn't do much to help with the kids. And so it was at that age of 14 and for many, many years after that, I would just observe moms with their kids, and rarely did they seem happy.
I think I was about 10 years old when I made the observation that people who had kids were poor and tired and didn't get to travel, and people who didn't have kids had money and got to travel. And this is obviously a broad generalization, and it's not a dig on parents. If you want to be a mommy or a daddy, do it. But my parents were exhausted raising the three of us, loved us, good parents, and I had this child-free aunt that was like, well, we're going to Europe again. And my mind was made up. I'm like, I'm gonna travel. And when I was about 11 or 12, I told both my parents, I'm like, I'm never having children. And they were both like, yeah, we know, honey. We know that you're not the one that's gonna give us grandkids. And they never pushed it on me, not once. Now I'm 37, partner got the snip, traveled to 30 countries.
Damn. I'm kind of a loss for words here. Okay, first of all, let me just say I applaud you for your honesty. As a matter of fact, let's all applaud her for her honesty because I'm pretty sure it took a lot to come out and say this. I only have one request though, just one. Whatever you do, please do not tell this to your kids. Do not make them feel like you regret them. You wanna know why? I get so many comments from people, adults, whose parents have told them, I wish I never had you. I regret having you. I should have never had you. That shit is hurtful. And then they have to go to therapy and get all that fixed up. That's not fair. Don't do that to your kids.
I want to know what your number one reason is for not having kids. You don't owe anybody an explanation.
It's illogical. When I break it down with all of the invisible labor, the cost, the risk that every pregnancy is life-threatening, that child rearing, the day-to-day is not something that I want to do and is not something that's valued by society, it is illogical. Combined with all the studies that have been done showing that child-free women and child-free couples are happier, especially in the US where I live, it is just illogical. And whenever I talk to someone about this, they do make a lot of emotional arguments, but what I see more often than not is people just kind of doing this on autopilot because it's what they're supposed to do and it's what everyone around them is doing. And I honestly think I've given more thought to this than most people. And I think that's why I've come to the conclusion that I'm definitely not having kids and I'm going to be child free. And I went so far as to get sterilized and get my tubes removed. So yeah, it's illogical. And I don't live my life on autopilot in any other facet. So I'm certainly not going to do that when it comes to bringing another person into this world, almost against their will, because it's only up to me. It's at my discretion. So yeah, if you can prove me otherwise, if you have other thoughts, definitely hit me with them. But at this stage, it is illogical, and I think the popularity of the 4B movement is just even more proof of that.
One of the biggest reasons why I don't want to have kids and why I really like being child free is I love being alone. And I mean that seriously. I am very independent. I do a lot of things out of the house on my own. And even when I'm at home, I have a husband, but I spend a lot of time by myself. I simply cannot imagine having to have someone in my space and be around me and need me all the time. And people would say, oh, it's only for the first couple of years or whatever. Come on, let's be real. Your children rely on you for a very long time and they're in your space for a very long time. And when you're someone that really likes being alone, considering the fact that someone would be there all the time, to me, that's just, I couldn't do it. And people might say, oh, that's so selfish, but perhaps it's actually not a selfish thing. Perhaps it's the opposite of selfish, because how selfish would it be for me to bring a child into my world when I know I don't have the capacity to give it the love and attention and be responsible for it in the way that it needs? So I actually think it's unselfish of me. And also, I just know myself best, and I know that my life is going to be the happiest and most fulfilling when I don't have something that's there that needs me all the time. For not having kids.
I don't really feel like it, mostly. I don't know why that's not a good enough answer for a lot of people. I don't know that I could hold literary salon with a baby. It just wouldn't have much, if anything, to contribute to discussion. They're not known to be very good audiences. The dive bar doesn't have high chairs, so I guess the baby would just have to sit on the floor. Kind of awkward, kind of a hazard to people who were trying to walk by. The list is endless.
A majority of the child rearing and work in heteronormative relationships especially. I don't really have data on same-sex couples, but I know studies have been done on heteronormative couples. Women do more. And as the Barbie movie says, mothers stand still to watch their daughters go forward. I love indulging my inner child, and I can do that because I don't have kids. If I had kids, all of my time would be spent focusing on their schedule, focusing on their needs, focusing on all the stuff that helps make them successful humans, as opposed to myself. And I am very, very blessed to have a mother who is actually the most amazing mom. She still is. And I am who I am today. I am this empowered, gonna share my perspective opinion no matter what sort of woman because of her love and care. Because of her love and care, I realized I actually don't want to do that. And that's a gift. But the Barbie movie really put into perspective just how much women do and take on, and that quote alone about mothers standing still was very telling, and it really talks about the mantle a mother takes on. And taking this full circle, women do give up childish things earlier because they are expected to take on that mantle. And I hate that that is the way it is. I don't want it to be the case, but the reality is that that is the way it is. And as I grew older and realized, I don't want to give up things that I just like to indulge in, I decided, kids aren't for me. Like, they talked about a man cave. Hey, this is my pink room. This is my room. And my husband's fully supportive of me having my own room. He doesn't have a man cave. I have my room, and I feel extremely blessed to be able to have this lifestyle where I don't have to give up on myself, on my inner child, on who I always wanted to be when I was a little girl.
Child-free woman coming at you. I think there's a couple things at play here. Women are raised to accept that they will one day be a wife and mother, and that it is somehow our gift to the world. This is not my belief, but I have friends who truly do believe that they were meant to be mothers. I don't share that. I've never felt that. But socially, there is a pressure that you are expected to get married and have babies. That's just what you're supposed to do. So when women disobey this sisterhood, it's alarming to the women that participate in it, because many of them feel insecure and that it is an attack on them as opposed to motherhood as a whole, or just freedom for women to do what the fuck they want. And then I think for some mothers, not all, they get into the true experience of motherhood, postpartum, marriage with kids, etc., and realize this isn't really the dream that society sold me on. What's up with this? So while many mothers won't admit it in this case, I think some of this is also jealousy of women without kids, jealousy to rewrite the narrative, to relive their lives, to live a life that they want to live as opposed to a life that they're expected to live.
Having kids and getting married is a scam for women. Women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest people of all, according to a professor of behavioral science. First, I think they meant to say child-free because childless people, I don't know if they're as happy because they want to have kids, but they can't. So I don't know. They might have used the wrong word there, but let's continue. Women who are unmarried and child-free are the happiest subgroup of the population as a whole, according to a happiness expert. I didn't know we had happiness experts out there. And now you know. Paul Dolan, a professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, says that while men benefit from being married, women generally do not. Although tying the knot and having children are typically considered markers of success in our society, women who shun this pressure, despite the stigma, tend to be happier and healthier as a result. Who would have thought? Professor Dolan says that unmarried and child-free women are also likely to outlive their married child-rearing counterparts and are healthier than them. Latest data demonstrated that long-established traditional symbols of success did not necessarily correlate with happiness levels. This best-selling author, who carries out original research into the measurement of happiness and its causes and consequences, noted that men, in comparison, benefited from marriage as they calm down. The men, they take less risk and they earn more money at work and they live a little longer. The woman, on the other end, has to put up with that, and she becomes unalive sooner than if she never married. The healthiest and happiest population subgroup are women who are never married or had children. I am shocked. You guys tried to gaslight us into getting married and having kids a lot. You're like, oh, it's the best thing that'll ever happen to you. You'll never find true love unless you have kids and marriage and da-da-da-da. But the science is saying the exact opposite. Married people who are happier than other population subgroups, but only when their spouse is in the room when they are asked how happy they are. When the spouse is not present, they're effing miserable. So basically, they're saying if you're a man, you should probably get married. If you're a woman, don't bother.
But in most cases, with most child-free women, we notice that the friendship pretty much dies after they have kids.
Okay, so this is what I think happens to women as we get closer to our 30s, okay? If you live in a small town and you never really left your small town, this kind of happens in your mid-20s. So you have the women who want more of the traditional, like, woman life, okay? I'm not gonna necessarily say trad white, but they want a more traditional route. And then you have the other women, those of us who have put our education first, our career first, our passions first, or we're not considered conventionally attractive, or we're queer. Basically, we're deviating from the norm with women, right? So when you get closer to your 30s, you start to see this divide. And I would say as soon as women find that like serious partner who they're like, I could see myself marrying you, that's when shit starts to go downhill with the friendship. Like after my first friend got married, I rarely heard from that girl ever again. Because now you're not just talking to that friend, the partner is there too. And I'm sorry, like, I don't want to be telling Bill about my period cramps and love issues, you know what I'm saying? And so they'll start hanging around people who also, you know, want a more traditional life. And they start hanging around their partner more and the friendship just dies out. And I think this is why we're having so many arguments online over female friendships. Because this is the first time in history where we've had a space like this to have these conversations. And also you have more women than ever who are getting married later, or like I said, choosing their education and career and passions over, you know, having a family and getting married. I mean, if you're dealing with this right now, my best advice is just to be patient with finding new friends. Yes, it's extremely, extremely difficult, but it is possible. And sometimes friendships grow apart. You know, it doesn't have to be this whole, you know, duke it out thing. Sometimes people just have different, you know, life trails or whatever the fuck. So yeah, just some thoughts.
You know what's even more socially unacceptable today than being a woman who doesn't want kids? The reason you don't want kids. I, and so many women I know, have spent years trying to justify why we don't want kids. Saying, oh yeah, no, I love kids, I just, and then give your reason as if you have to justify it. And truly, one of my reasons for not wanting kids is the one you're never allowed to say, which is, I don't really like kids. Sure, there's a couple of kids I like. My nephew's really badass. I have some friends with some truly awesome kids. But in general, I don't like kids. But when you're a woman who says you don't like kids, oh man, do you need to be prepared for the wrath that you are going to get, because you are supposed to like kids. You are supposed to want children. You're supposed to love all children. And yet if you're a man that doesn't like kids, doesn't like being around kids, doesn't have anything to say to kids, no one thinks twice about it.
I'm a mom of 4 kids, and something I cannot get over is the way that people try to convince women who are child-free by choice that they actually want kids. They'll say things like, oh, no, you say that now, but you'll see, you'll want them, or, oh, just wait, once you fall in love, you're gonna want kids. Doctors will even say, no, ma'am, I can't tie your tubes, you're too young, you're gonna change your mind. As if women don't know what they want for themselves. It is wild, and I often even see it in like dating and marriage. Men will date women who say they do not want kids, and then they think they can convince them to have kids. And they spend years trying to tell her that she does want kids. And then if they break her down, if they are successful in doing so and getting her to have children with them, they are then shocked when she doesn't fully enjoy the experience of motherhood. It is crazy to me that women will say what they want and people will tell them that that just can't possibly be true. That just can't be true. And it's crazy because society tells us that, as a woman in particular, our ultimate job is to be a mother. And so it is really difficult for many women to say, no, I don't want kids. I will never want kids. That is a difficult thing to say in this society, because people then look at you and say, well, then what are you good for? And women and men have value whether or not they have children and a family. You don't need kids to have value in our world. And honestly, as a parent, I always encourage people, like, if you don't think you want kids, definitely don't have them. You cannot go in this halfway. You're all the way in, right? So let's start listening to women, and if they say they don't want kids, believe them. Don't date them, don't marry them hoping you can change their mind. Don't tell them what to do with their reproductive organs. Just let them live their life. Let them be, please, because women know what they want. They know what they want, and they are allowed to say that, and they are allowed to stick by that, and we should.
That was quite a lot to learn. That was quite a lot. We've heard a lot, but sometimes I look at this, not having kids, and also there are people who are childless. Just imagine that. There are people who want to have kids and they are not in a position to have them. They can't have kids. Just basically that. I don't know, how do they feel when they see women confidently say that they don't want kids? I don't want you to feel bad, because there are people who can't have kids, and you can have them, and you don't want to have them, and I don't know, what do they do with their eggs? Do they sell them? What do they do with them? I'm just it's a question that I'm just wondering. I don't know what you think about this. But also, could this be an advocacy for monosexual marriages? Because I'm kind of realizing this, because most women say women do a lot. They only have to sit and watch their daughters go. So once you get married, once you get kids, you have to see your children progressing as your life is on hold. That's what I've heard here. So there are also people who say that the contribution of women is not valued in the society. But also, when we tell, if they can see the struggle, but I know that being a mother is a sacrificial thing to do, because if our parents wouldn't have sacrificed, we wouldn't be there. So if we are not ready to sacrifice for others, in that sense, I will call this selfishness. Yeah, I know it might be irritating for you who doesn't want to have kids. I would call it selfishness, because if somebody sacrificed for you to enjoy the life and to go to those trips, the holidays that you're going to, I don't know. There are also women who are deciding to have their children later in life, like as late as 40, after they had enjoyed their life, they have done all their trips, they decide to have their children when they're 40 years, and yeah, that's after freezing their eggs. There are also those options. Why can't you opt for that? If you really want to enjoy life, with age, priorities keep on changing. The things that I used to desire more when I was in my early 20s, they started fading off when I turned 20 plus, late 20s. I was already shifting priorities, and I know in my 30s they will still shift to something else. So yeah, I feel like if you really want to enjoy your life, what if you consider having children later in life? Because somebody sacrificed for you to be here. So for you to go to those trips and holidays, somebody had to sacrifice all of their happiness. And that's what we are here for. We have to sacrifice. Where are we heading with this? And what will be the solution? What are your thoughts on this? Kindly share your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. And goodbye for now. I appreciate that you spent your precious time with me.